before I present, I want to introduce myself and a little bit about Bitwise. So my name is Hannibal Guerrero. I am the Vice President for Strategic Partnerships and Channels over at Bitwise. Bitwise sounds like Bitcoin, but it doesn't have anything to do with Bitcoin. It's an interesting company, a company that what we do is we build tech economies in underestimated cities. And what that means is that we follow the story of what one of our founders had gone through getting into the tech economy. And I'm going to play a video of her that's a few minutes, about 10 minutes long, but hearing her story and hearing her tell her story really hits home with why and what we do. I'll tell you that what we're about is serving the underserved, not only underserved communities, but bringing people into the tech business. So there's a massive gap in technology with all the major companies in the United States. You know, the big Googles, the Amazons, Salesforce, and they have really a big problem because in order to get to their revenue numbers, they're going to need people to be able to do the work. So it's not just sales about, you know, licenses and products. It's all about people. So, you know, they're saying, oh, we've tapped out resources and we can't figure out where they are. We're like, we know where they are. They're in our neighborhoods. They're here. We serve the people that that people think are undervalued or sometimes are underserved in terms of services. For example, single mothers, Latino, Latinx, the Black communities, veterans, ex-incarcerated, folks that say, you know, maybe they had something that happened in their life, like, I had to take care of my little brother because he was sick, or I had to take care of my parents, and they didn't have a chance to do, go through the traditional process of getting into the tech business. But we found the tech business really is a way to change the trajectory of people's lives completely. And so what we do is we have a part of our business that is our curriculum business. We do apprenticeships in technology, which we actually we pay our folks to go through the technology, the apprenticeship technology program. And you'll see how, when they come out, they usually come work for us in our technology consulting business. So we sound very non-for-profity because sounds very, like, oh, we're here to save the world. But we are actually a venture-backed, fully for-profit company with, that's how we met Data 360, because we met with the cool kids. We got to meet the cool kids and Marie and their group. And they said, hey, why don't you guys get together and create some magic? And so that's what we're working on. But we're fully, it's a venture capital backed company that is for profit, that we are absolutely dedicated and unwavering to our mission to help people and change people's lives. And that's, what we do is we go into these communities and we take people that are making $20,000 a year at like a fast food company and get them through our program, and they come out of our program and start doing consulting work and start anywhere from $60,000 to $80,000 and up. And for a humble family that came from humble beginnings, that changes everything. That now all of a sudden healthcare changes. You can buy a home for your parents. You can send your little kids, your cousins to your brother to school. And then you start investing in your own communities, and we change communities. So I'll tell you a little bit after the video about how I got here. But I'll tell you a little bit about my background. I worked in tech and management consulting. So I started out with like EDS and then worked for, did some management consulting at Booz Allen. Then I got kind of a specialty in helping start service businesses and product companies like Silicon Graphics, Fujitsu, started the consulting business there, started the services business at Dell. And after a while, I thought, I'm making all this money for these big companies, but I don't feel like I'm really helping people. And my mission really is to help people, my personal mission. So I went to work in workforce with ACT, running their international business around workforce. Then K-12, distance learning around the world. Participated in a great program with the UN in trying to define with the International Labor Organization what the future of our digital economy and digital work is going to look like. So I don't look like or sound like the kind of person that this program is for, but I'm here because I'm absolutely passionate about what we're doing. So whatever path you take here, whether you a veteran or you've done, worked for big corporations like me, we're here at Bitwise together to really try to change the world one person at a time, one community at a time. We've grown tremendously. We were 100 people last year. We're 800 people this year. We've had 8,000 people whose lives we've touched. And let me tell you that you'll see why we're so passionate about what we do once you hear our founder, Irma, and how we did this. So let me let you just look at this. It's a TED Talk she did. So you'll see and appreciate. Okay, can you guys see that?
Yes.
Great. Then here we go.
Has anyone here been?
Let's talk about BetterHelp.
If you ever feel anxious, depressed,
I'm sorry, I don't have the
overwhelmed
pay
by
version,
the
so
world
we'll
being
have
I love how that goes.
BetterHelp can step in with
You
their
need to
bit of
skip.
life.
Yeah, there you go.
To
Sorry
Fresno.
about
Okay, good.
Okay, she just asked if anybody's been to Fresno, California.
Yeah, just
Has
mute
anyone
your
here
mic
been
so it
to
doesn't
Fresno?
echo.
Okay, good. That's where I'm from, where I was born, and where I live today. For those of you who left, and the entire Central Valley of California is a place that's built by agriculture. Miles and miles of farmland for as far as the eye can see, with a couple of large, poor cities dotting the landscape. My family, like much of the local population, is a family of immigrant farm laborers, those toiling away in the fields, hoping for a 25-cent an hour raise. I didn't see myself destined for the glamour of Silicon Valley, but I did find my way to college, and something miraculous happened. I got a job in tech. And I remember the first time I didn't have to count the change when trying to figure out how much to tip for pizza delivery, when I realized that this industry, the technology industry, was going to change my life forever. And I remember thinking to myself, if it can happen to me, a poor, queer, brown woman from nowhere, why can't it happen to entire cities of people like me? And so for the last 8 years, that's what I've been working on in Fresno, building a business that could expose what it takes to cause an entire city, and not just a select few people in it, to thrive. It turns out we only need 3 pretty simple ingredients: training, proof, and community. So the cornerstone of everything that we do is job training. The communities that we work with are often from very poor populations, maybe folks who are learning English as a second language. Maybe they were unhoused, the formerly incarcerated, veterans, folks who are very often from retail or factory work. These folks, their issue is not their ability to learn technical things. Their problems center on things that are a lot less obvious. Things like childcare, transportation, hunger, money. So those are the things that we focus on. Can be especially hard on families. How do you justify learning to do something like write code when there are bills to pay? Wouldn't it be better for the family if you just got a job at McDonald's and put in as many hours as you can, because that's a check? And who's going to watch your little brother? That's what we do as a family. We pitch in. But how do you justify to the people around you when it looks to them like you're just playing around on the computer? We didn't invent a new way to teach JavaScript. We just focus a lot more on the things that actually prevent people from learning it. In addition to connecting our students to things like bus tokens and free regional transit options. We also just deploy a fleet of vehicles whose only job is to pick these folks up before their study groups and drop them back off after class. If they need food, we get them food. We work with food cupboards and pantries and making sure that boxes of food are delivered to these students' homes with enough for a family of 3 to 5 people. We connect them to childcare options that make sense for their schedules and their budgets. But most importantly, because cash is such a center of energy and decision-making for these families, through our apprenticeship program, we literally pay them to learn. So not only do they get to earn a wage and are exposed to real-world work, but now they also have that first line on the resume, the one that's so hard to get, and the one that builds confidence in the rest of the world that you might know what you're talking about. And so you might be thinking to yourself, okay, Armand, this sounds great, but it sounds really expensive. So how do you pay for it? We've turned a long-held idea on its head. We have to stop putting the burden, the financial burden, on the student and the families who are already struggling and start putting it on the people and the entities that benefit most from their untapped potential. Entities like government, corporations, philanthropy. These are the entities that benefit from the development of that talent, and so that's who we get to pay for it. Let's throw back the curtain on what I'm trying to say here. Let's take the government. The US spends $1 trillion skilling up a workforce for this country. Many of those programs have mixed results, and while some folks who come out of them do in fact earn higher wages at the end, while they're still learning, when they're still in training, many of these folks can't also work, which means that they're not bringing home a check, which means that they're still in survival mode, which means that the people who would benefit most can't participate to begin with. That's where a system like ours makes some sense. We apply for allocations of that same kind of money and use it to pay people to learn. We also work with corporations. Q&A testing, for example, is a job that can be taught and a role that companies desperately need. Training up a batch of Q&A engineers is low-hanging fruit and has almost instant results for companies. For the companies to invest in the development of that talent, it breeds them a local and eager technology workforce from which to choose. Companies that are in a growth mode or who are experiencing a digital transformation, they know that the key to their future is their ability to find, hire, and retain talent. We can train up entire cohorts or a generation of junior level and apprentice level technologists trained directly to their systems, ready to be hired on day one. We've worked with all kinds of companies, getting them to pay for things like tuition and money for students to accomplish exactly this goal. Philanthropy's interest here may be even easier to describe. Foundations and nonprofits, they want to see their money put to good use. Take the Quality Jobs Fund, for example. It's a collaborative effort between the Federal Home Loan Bank of San Francisco and the New World Foundation. And their express mission is to address inequality through quality jobs expansion and skills development. We apply for allocations or grants from philanthropies like those, work with the government dollars that we just described, and companies in the way that we just talked about, put it all together to use it to pay people to learn. So that's how you pay for it. Now, what is it that these folks should learn on? In our view, it's real-world software projects, because that is the proof. You see, all of the software that the world needs built has to get made. And so we can leverage talent from these underrepresented communities to deliver on that need, build a training ground for green talent, and also build a really robust business. We'll take Onward US as just one example. It was a rapid response initiative in response to COVID, where we partnered with the Capor Center. It was adopted by the state of California and then 10 other states. The idea was to take displaced workers, folks who were affected by COVID, connect them to money and services and new jobs. We took a high-level senior software engineer who could architect the full platform, and then apprentices who could execute on that roadmap. And in 11 days, we had a functioning prototype. You see, the local mom and pop, the school district, the regional manufacturer, they all have software needs, and they're gonna pay someone to do it. With this model, they can have their solutions delivered back to them, but also participate in the creation of high-growth, high-wage jobs in their area. The last ingredient in our recipe is community. We need vibrant spaces that meet the aspirations of technologists and entrepreneurs. So we build castles for the underdogs. We buy blighted buildings in our downtowns for pennies on the dollar, improve them, lease them back out to ourselves and others in the technology industry. This creates community around the idea of leveling up entry-level humans and builds a shared understanding and value around what it means to have access to unlimited talent. The first project that we did was a building that had stood empty for 40 years before we took it over. We showed up with our tenant list and our ability to do work. Our partner showed up with a building that was empty and decaying. We painted the walls, we built a bunch of desks, we hung a lot of TVs. And when the coffee shop opened at the front of that building, it was like someone had flipped a switch on that corner of downtown. Suddenly there were 1,000 students and tenants and community members visiting that building each day. These ingredients, when you take them all together, they produce real impact, driven by real change that affect real people who have names and faces and families and pets. Just one quick example, our pal Miguel, who was once incarcerated. He didn't have any prospects for his future, his professional life, or really his family. He was scholarshiped through our pre-apprenticeship program using government dollars. Miguel veered just to the left of computer programming, landed neck deep in analytics and website funnels. He apprenticed for our digital marketing program. 18 months later, Miguel has a full-time job, a great salary, benefits, and a matching 401k. We've worked with over 5,000 students, and of those entering our career programs, over 80% earn technical employment. And in Fresno, this means that that new technology workforce is greater than 50% female or gender nonconforming, greater than 50% minority or Latinx, and 20% first generation. And those demographics mirror the demographics of our county. These are folks leaving restaurant, retail, factory, and field labor, earning on average less than $20,000 a year, exiting the programs earning $60,000 to $80,000 a year. That's gas in the tank and rent paid on time. And when you do that enough times, you see more sandwiches being purchased at the local panini shop, newer, more reliable cars taking these folks to work, the tax base improving, which invests in schools and rebuilds roads, homes in those communities that are being built or bought by the people who are actually going to live in them. Dilapidated buildings that once stood empty, now full of energized underdogs sipping coffee and writing code, and most importantly, bringing with them the next generation of human that didn't see themselves leaving the packing house until they saw their pal make it work. And we can do this. You know, it's not at all a mystery, especially not that now that we've spent 10 minutes talking about it. But we do have to do 3 very specific and deliberate things. Invite the underdog in the front door. Pay them to learn like it's their job. And then build them castles in their hometowns. It's worked in Fresno. It's working in Bakersfield and Toledo, Ohio, and it can work in underestimated cities all over the world. Thank you so much for your attention.
So when I say that we're here to change the world, I mean it. The example for our work that we're doing is Irma herself. She, in 11th grade, someone said, "Hey, you can skip school, you can skip class and go take this test." And she's like, "Yeah, I don't want to go to class. Who wants to go to class?" Her parents, were farmers at work, worked on a farm picking fruit. She's like, "Well, that's probably what I'm going to do my whole life." She got out of class, took the test, aced the SAT, and got a full ride scholarship to Ohio. But she was so poor, they couldn't afford the bus fare out there. So they sold tamales, they sold cakes, and they got her out there. She majored in computer science, came home, got a job, and she's the example, the first person that went through this. We've now, since the video, have gone 8,000 people have gone through our program. We're in Merced, Bakersfield, Fresno, Oakland, Buffalo, New York, Cheyenne, Wyoming, El Paso, Texas, Greeley, Colorado, Toledo, and Las Cruces, New Mexico. We are absolutely committed to our mission to changing people's lives through getting them into the tech economy. So I invite you to take a look at what we do, and I'd be super happy to chat with any one of you. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Hannibal. That was an amazing video to share. It really shows the point of working with Bitwise and working in general on these issues, and that it's not a for good issue. It's a for all of us issue. It's about all of our communities doing well and being healthy.
Yeah, and what's interesting is that, my job is to work with the Googles, the Salesforce.com, the Amazons, Microsoft. And if this issue of diversity, equity, and inclusion is not a nice to have anymore. It's a must have. And the problem is that those big giants don't know how to do this and don't do it well. Yeah. That's why we partner with Data 360 because, and our partners in this program, because we're not only talking about it, we're actually doing it. And that's what it's all about, is getting out there and getting it done. So.
Yeah. And the best thing is one of our mutual lead investors introduced us. And, it shows that even the financial industry is committed to this now.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
They understand that some of the reasons that they can't find people is because people aren't going to put up with the way that corporations used to treat people. They need to change. And if they don't, nobody's going back.
The world will change anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
It is changing anyway.
Exactly.
I have a quick question.
Yes.
Sorry. Hannibal, have you heard of School 42 or 42 School?
I haven't.
Okay, so it's it's a peer-to-peer learning for software, and there used to be. I heard there was 42 Palo Alto, which I think has closed. I recently, and SAP supports 42 School Berlin.
Oh, cool.
There's no teachers, and it's an interesting model. And I think, some of the work that you're doing, some of the students that you're taking in could probably benefit from that. But yeah.
And it's interesting. The reason why we work so well with Data 360 is that our off-ramp of students sometimes are on-ramps to Data 360, and sometimes Data 360's off-ramp of students are on-ramps to us. It's so mutually beneficial that we share and just continue to teach and help people, advance their careers, get more into technology, earn more money, change their lives. I mean, completely changing the trajectory of people's lives. And that's, I always get super emotional about this, even though I work for this company and I see that video and I get so excited. So yeah, super excited to be part of Hip Hop Hackathon and future ventures that we can do together.
Thank you. I don't blame you for the excitement.
Thanks, Ree.
This is awesome.